Okay, so welcome to today's fourth Charlie Mike workshop presentation for fall 2021. Today we are going to be talking about the disability claims process as well as Chapter 31 Veteran Readiness and Employment Program. So the workshop is meant um, for veterans who are unfamiliar with either one of those two processes, but at the same time, if you are going through it right now, if you've applied to chapter 31 and you have questions and you're here and you're just here to understand the process a bit more, totally okay as well. So we welcome anyone with any level of knowledge to attend today's workshop. So I do want to welcome Stephen Lamb, who's here with us today. Stephen Lamb is a Chapter 31 Veteran Readiness and Employment Counselor, and he will be the one providing you with some information today. So I would say that we're going to go ahead and have Stephen get started. And if you have any questions, Stephen, would you like everyone to hold on to their questions, or do you want them to ask questions as they come up for them?
Um, let's save the questions for later. My presentation won't be more than a few minutes long, really.
Got it.
It's I think for me it's easier to answer questions than to um, really present.
Got it. Okay. So then, would you like maybe if you have a question, they can go ahead and put on the chat box. That way
Yeah,
we
that's
don't
perfectly
forget it.
fine.
Awesome. Okay, that'll be great. So if you have a question as Stephen is talking and presenting, go ahead and add your question to the chat box. And of course, if it comes up after Stephen's presentation, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask at that point. So, all right. So Stephen, you're on.
All right. Good afternoon, all. My name is Stephen Lamb with Department of Veterans Affairs, Chapter 31, Veteran Readiness and Employment, formerly known as Voc Rehab or Vocational Rehabilitation. The point of Voc Rehab or Veteran Readiness and Employment, VR&E, is to work with service-connected injured veterans who have an employment barrier based on whatever the service-connected injuries are, to either find employment or be retrained for employment that doesn't worsen their service-connected injuries. Everyone is a case-by-case basis. None of the service-connected injuries are always the same between each service member or veteran. So the point of the program is to establish an understanding of what the employment barriers are and help them find employment, whether it's retraining or direct employment services. If the individual overcame their service-connected injuries by obtaining a, say, bachelor's degree or some type of certification that allows them to find employment that doesn't worsen their service-connected injuries, then they are not entitled to the program. But again, these are case by case basis, dependent on the individual service connected injuries. If you're not service connected, or if you know fellow brethrens or sister service members that have, or veterans that have not been, that have not filed a claim, they can go to Reymundo or contact Ms. Peak to get his schedule so you can file for a claim and compensation. Which is the very first step to applying for voc rehab. Veteran readiness and employment. The minimum requirement to apply is a 10% rating, meaning it could be 10% for sleep apnea, 10% for whatever it may be. But we have to, all voc rehab counselors in VR&E must go over those service-connected injuries to see is there an employment barrier. If there isn't, unfortunately, we do have to let the veteran know that they're not entitled to Chapter 31 services. There are um, there's really three areas that we look into: independent living for veterans who service-connected injuries are severe to the point where they're unable to work. So me and other colleagues would go out to the veteran's home to determine, are there any unmet healthcare needs? Do they need an aide and attendant? Do they need a caretaker? If so, then we'll establish contact with them through the VA healthcare system to establish and get those get those unmet healthcare needs taken care of. The other one is we also have a self-employment option where we send the veteran to Small Business Administration to go over the plans of um, creating a business to work for themselves. It is a lengthy process with Small Business Administration specifically because of COVID, but sba.gov is the location you can identify if you would like to create a business for yourself alongside with Voc Rehab or on your own. Go to that website and find the nearest location. And regarding Voc Rehab, veteran readiness and employment, we do have employment through long-term services where we retrain the individual if they have an employment barrier for employment in a field that doesn't worsen their service-connected injuries. Retraining could be a trade, it could be apprenticeship, it could be associate's degree, certification, licensure, bachelor's, and maybe a master's, really depending on what are the basic requirements to get the individual into a position. That's it for my end. Ready for questions, Ms. Peak?
Okay, so yeah, thanks, Stephen, for that bit of information there about Voc Rehab, what you need pretty much to be eligible. I know I have a few questions, but I'm wondering if anyone else might have any questions that you have in mind. If you do, go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. Okay, so just want to know in terms of, you know, in terms of Voc Rehab, I'm sorry, VR&E, Veteran Readiness and Employment. I'm still adjusting to the name change, by the way. So for a student who is considering using VR&E, and let's say that they have their GI Bill and they want to start with the GI Bill, but now they've heard that there is VR&E. What would you say would be, what would you recommend for them to do? Should they go ahead and apply for VR&E later, or should they apply now? What type of advice would you give to a veteran who's on the fence about, VR&E and just learning about it?
If they're just learning about it, my thing would be to ask, are you service connected? If not, then immediately go to Mr. Reymundo or whichever veteran service officer to help with filing a claim and compensation for possible service connected injuries. Afterwards, I would say apply sooner rather than later, just because um, it does take say 30 to 40 days to process an application, and time constraints may not be on the veteran's side. So if they used up 32 months of their benefits, then they really have 4 months remaining. So time isn't of the essence. I would recommend applying sooner rather than later, just because it eases some uncertainties if they're service connected injuries.
Got it. And how does VR&E work with the GI Bill? Can you explain that?
Voc Rehab, we can, the difference between GI Bill and Voc Rehab, or I mean VR&E,
Mhm.
sorry, still old school with that. The difference is GI Bill offers 36 months, Voc Rehab or VR&E offers up to 48 months. Exceptions to that was under former Vice President Mike Pence that requested VA to reinstate benefits because of some schools that were no longer VA approved or were closed down by Department of Education. So they had those benefits reinstated. Um, see, the one difference is that besides the 36 and the 48 is the tuition cap for the time being is 25,000 for VR&E, while GI Bill I believe is 21,000. So that makes a big difference when the individuals are going to
Mm.
CSU or maybe some UCs as well. The one thing is GI Bill, you're eligible for a yellow ribbon depending on the school. Voc Rehab, you're not, or VR&E, you're not eligible for yellow ribbon.
Okay.
GI Bill offers up to $1,000 of annual book supplies, they pay for you, while VR&E provides you the required books, the required supplies. We provide one laptop for the entire duration of the VR&E program. So if you're going for engineering, books are easily $200-300, especially if it's calculus, um, some physics courses. So that's going to be well above the $1,000 book supply cap that's that GI Bill has. But Voc Rehab or VR&E will pay for those required books.
Okay.
And the allowance, we can also pay the allowance to the veteran at the GI Bill rate if they're attending in person. The allowance portion does get a little confusing. This is all case by case. I usually tell the veteran when you get your first allowance under VR&E, just let me know if you have any questions. Just because I usually break it down day by day for the individual, so they know I'm doing I'm calculating properly for them.
Mhm.
See. And with VR&E compared to GI Bill, there are employment services options. We can try to look for federal internships, but because of COVID, it's been really restricted with federal internships. They could be with DoD, Department of Treasury, Homeland Security, Social Security, VA, um, Department of Interior, and Bureau of Land Management. These were the past internship, the federal internships we had. The reason we have those is to get them geared, get them some of the experience that's needed after graduation, or that's recommended after graduation to get in position.
Mhm.
Let's see. And that's all that I can think of with VR&E. Actually, one more.
Okay.
If the individual is eligible for VR&E, GI Bill, and State Department of Rehab, you guys can utilize. You can't use GI Bill and Voc Rehab at the same time or VR&E at the same time, but you can use GI Bill and Department of Rehab at the same time as long as the benefits don't overlap. So both can pay for tuition, both can pay for books, both can pay for parking. So it's one or the other. And we are in communication with each other regarding that.
So if a student decides to, okay, a veteran decides to use their GI Bill for 12 months, and then they start with VR&E at that point, um, and let's say that they, do they have the choice to use the GI Bill together with VR&E, or can do they have the option of using VR&E, and then once that expires at 48 months, can they continue to use the GI Bill that they still have left? Can you explain that to us?
That's the VA is still working on that. They're trying to separate the programs. GI Bill on its own, VR&E on its own. So the benefits don't overlap each other.
Okay.
But in the short, no, the veteran cannot use GI Bill and Voc Rehab at the same time. Um, so it would have to be one or the other.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how the directives are coming down, but
Yeah.
if they do separate it, yeah, they can use the 48 months of VR&E leading towards a specific field of work and utilize the employment services, and they still have their 36 months of GI Bill remaining.
Yeah.
But that one, regarding the GI Bill portion, that's still in the works, and I don't have any answers for that one, that specifically.
Okay. Yeah, because before they did separate them. So I do remember that years back it was
Ye-
separated. And then they combined them where if you're going to use your folk rehab, it was part of your GI Bill pretty much. Especially if they wanted to use their BH and they would exhaust both pretty much at the same time. So um but yeah, before it definitely was where they were two separate programs. Um but you're right, I think the VA is working that out. So okay. And then I know that Mark had some questions. So Mark?
Yes. So, hi, Stephen, and everyone.
Hey, Mark.
So, hi. So, question for you. So I've always know. Okay, so I've heard that if you, you have a disability, I believe it could be. I've heard that they have preference for veterans who have at least 30% disability. Correct? but you could be 10% rated.
Yeah, it's the rating thing is I don't even know how the VA rates or how the percentages are issued.
Oh.
Um, 30 30% can be serious, 10% can also be severe.
Hmm.
In the past, I had a veteran for some reason they got 10% for narcolepsy. I don't know what constituted that, but
Yeah.
um, that's what they had, and that's all the ratings they had. But overall, it's depending on what the service-connected injuries are and the overall impact to employment under VR&E. If there is a impairment or a barrier, then yeah, we can retrain or help them find work.
Interesting. Okay, and so they have to be, they cannot be employed when they apply to the program. Is that correct?
That's not true.
Okay.
They can be employed, but
Hmm.
it may not be an appropriate employment. For example, using you as an example, Mark,
Yeah.
if you were rated, say, 100%, 50% for back, 50% for knees, 50% for PTSD, you're working as a um,
Sure.
construction worker for
Yeah.
Fannie Mae.
Yeah.
That's and you have no other transferable skills or education, that's not exactly the most appropriate job based on your service connected injuries because of the physical conditions you have.
Right.
So
Okay.
in that case, yeah, you still have to work because we can't supplement your income. We can't pay for your rent.
Right. Right.
There's still some responsibilities that cannot go away despite even if you stop working.
Okay. So they could be
So
receiving a stipend and still working to get that other degree, or do they have to quit work to get the stipend?
we can't tell them to quit. They don't have to quit the job,
Okay.
but I would still inform them. My veterans say, "Hey, contact your certifying official at the school. And maybe you can do work study. It balances out a little bit. It may be a pay cut, it may be less money, but at least
Okay.
you're not traveling around rushing, trying to rush into off work to get to class or
Right.
rush out of class to get to work or whatever it may be."
Right. And
Um,
and it's still the same as the GI Bill. If you take only online classes, they only get half of the stipend. Or let's say, for example, like I do have somebody who's he's getting out of the military. He's done 26 years in two different branches of service. I don't. He used his, I think, tuition assistance. So he got his master's degree, but he just recently got rated at 50%, and he's getting out, and he's like, man, I don't have any. Technically, he has a degree, but no transferable work skills because his degree is in public administration, but he doesn't have any work experience in public administration in a like in a city job or anything like that. So he was asking, he's like, I wonder if I can get like a certificate in human resources or something so that he can at least get his foot in the door somewhere. So because I know also that you pay up to a master's degree. So if he already has his master's, would that disqualify him from that program, or does he have? Is there still an option for him to get like a certificate because he has a 50% disability rating and no GI Bill entitlement?
yeah, well, that's we don't always issue masters. It's based on what the field requires.
Oh, got it.
So, but also having a master's doesn't mean you're not qualified. If
Mhm.
he's lacking transferable skills, then maybe it's better not to get more education. Maybe it's better to get, hopefully COVID goes away soon. Maybe we can get him a federal internship site or not in site, but a federal internship position to build that
Oh,
experience.
so you can do that too. Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't, maybe I missed that. Okay, I didn't know that. So okay, that's good to know. Okay, all right. That sounds good. Now, one last question. So, like you mentioned, you had a veteran who had narcolepsy. So, in that with that disability, how like what kind of skills would he? I mean, did he have to get a job that? I don't know. That'd be an interesting situation because like I got sleep apnea, but it hasn't been. I'm still waiting for it from the VA, and I have other, but I'm not. It's not. I'm just curious. Like, would that be considered? Like, how would they use that disability and see how it affects your job? Would they? What kind of training did he provide for him? Just
That
curious.
one, this was in an old office that I am, because I've been at the LA office for 7 years,
Hmm.
but this one I didn't get to follow through because I transferred. Um, but with any veteran that comes to the program, we do request to speak with their primary care provider to identify all barriers, limitations, and restrictions
Oh, got it.
and
Okay.
functional capacity to employment. Just because we want to make sure that if they're entitled, we want to make sure, are they able to work? If so, what can they do? Or if they're not able to work, then what are the unmet healthcare needs, if there's any? So we can
Okay.
bridge their communication between them and the VA healthcare providers, whether it's the physical health, mental health, behavioral health, um, optometrists, um,
Okay.
just their overall health and well-being.
Got it. Oh, okay. Okay. That's good to know. All right. Well, thank you. I won't take up more of your time because I know Reymundo's here and he has to do his presentation. So thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Stephen before the floor goes to Reymundo?
Um, there's one in the chat box. It says, Miss Peak and Mark asked all the questions I had. So thank you. Thank you, Robert. How do we initiate contact to start the application process? There's multiple ways. You can go to va.gov to apply for VR&E, and it'll get you the application to apply, and it'll be submitted digitally because they're leaning out of e-benefits. The other one, you can go to your VSO, Veteran Service Officer, or you can go to the Federal Building 11,000 Wilshire by UCLA, where I'm officed, and we'll take your application in, scan it for processing, and you'll get your copy back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stephen, would it be possible for them to also contact you for some guidance through the process? Or if they have any other questions, can they reach out to you?
Yeah, they can. You and Mark have my email. Only thing I can't answer is like, are you entitled? Can you get whatever degree? But I can tell you, okay, is this school VA approved? Is this program VA approved? And let you guys know.
Awesome. Okay. So Mark, if you have Stephen's info, can you put in the chat, please? If not, I'll have to look for it.
I'll type it in.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you had access. I thought you were just calling in. Okay, cool. Thanks, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Hey, we appreciate your time, Stephen. I know you're also crunched, with your day. So thanks so much for joining us. If you need to head out, totally okay. But if you can stick around, that's cool too. But thanks for being here today.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you for the invite. Sorry I can't stay.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. So we do have Reymundo Borjon who's joined us. Reymundo and our ELIFE BRC go way back. So Ray has definitely, been with us, supporting our veterans with their disability claims process, supporting dependents with their CalVet fee waiver, and just all sorts of different things that our county veteran service officers handle for and with our veterans. So Reymundo's here today to join us. So welcome, Reymundo.
Thank you for the invite.
So Ray's here today to talk to us about the actual disability claims process. It can be pretty daunting to some. I think for a lot of our vets, there's, sometimes they don't even see like a purpose. Sometimes from our student veterans, I've heard the reason why they have not started their claims process is because they feel they don't have any disabilities. And, that could be true 100%. They may not, but there are so many benefits to even just getting that 0% rating. So Ray's going to talk to us today about that process, how to initiate it, the steps that it goes through. And of course, if you have any other questions, he can answer those for you as well. So as Ray is speaking, just go ahead and drop your questions into the chat box if they come up, and then we'll make sure we ask Ray after. So welcome, Ray, you're on.
Okay, well, my name is Reymundo Borjon. I'm the veteran service officer. I work the East LA area. So I assist veterans in helping submit their disability claims. So when we say disability, we say what injuries did you sustain in the service? I know that we have active duty, reserves, and National Guard. So active duty is any injury you sustain while in active duty. Reserves is any injury you sustain in the line of duty, because a lot of times uh, they'll sustain an injury while drilling. So you have to get a document that says that this injury was sustained in the line of duty. Same thing for National Guardsmen. Um, they have to be either activated or drilling during that same time. And what I do is I assist veterans in filing their claim. Not only that, we also help you in getting those benefits. Yeah, even though the VA will deny it, we'll read through the documentation and see why they're denying it. A lot of times it's because we've been out of the service, but we haven't been to the doctor, or we haven't got seen for that injury that you sustained. So a lot of times we just have to get you enrolled. That's another thing that I do is get you enrolled into the Veterans Health Administration, start seeking treatment for those injuries that you sustain, and then build your evidence. Because there's 3 steps that you need to have in order to try to get a service connected. First one is it's got to be in your service treatment record. Second one is it's a nexus, but mainly we ask our questions. How did you sustain that injury? So you will always be relating it to the military. And then the third one is having a current diagnosis. Once we have all those 3, we submit the claim. Necessarily, you don't have to have all 3, but you could have 2 out of the 3. And we're hoping that at least when you go and get a CMP exam, that they will diagnose you. But that's why we still have you go to your primary care doctor so that you can get a diagnosis, just in case if they do deny it, then you have something to back it up with. And it's all based on disabilities. You know, the rating that the VA has is not the 10 plus 10 is 20. It's actually 10 and 10 is 19, but it rounds up to 20. So the higher your rating goes, the higher it is to get to 100. But if you have any questions in submitting a claim, let me know. I'll guide you through it. I'll help you out. And then we'll make sure that we submit it with all the proper documentation. Yes, Priscilla, you had a question?
Hi, yes. Actually, okay, so I'm in the middle of filing my claim and I'm on the VA form 0781, where I write my statement for PTSD. And I'm having a hard time writing that down. Not necessarily because I don't know what to write, but more so just having to go back and think on the things that happened and putting it down on paper. So is there any way that you can personally assist me with that?
So for the 210781, that's a PTSD stressor. Now, I understand that a lot of times writing a stressful event that happened in service can be difficult. And I always tell every veteran, I know it's difficult, but remember, you're only going to write it one time. Okay. The best thing to do is just to try to write it as much as you can. But if you feel like you need to step away from it, you can step away from it, because you know, because the VA is still gonna request that form. So the thing is, just write it. Don't worry about the periods. Don't worry about any of that. Just how we go to English class, run-on sentence. We're really not too worried about the periods, commas here, all that stuff. No, on the PTSD stressor, What I just have you do is just write it like it happened. Don't worry about any of that stuff. If you need to step away from it, step away from it, but make sure that you do come back and you continue writing it.
Okay.
Because it's difficult because you're gonna write it. Not only are you gonna write it, you're gonna talk to your doctor about it, and then not only that, you're gonna talk to the doctor that they're gonna send you to. So
Right.
you're gonna talk about this 3 times. But what I do is I always tell you is like I always tell you ahead of time. These this is what's gonna happen. They're gonna ask you. They're gonna ask you these questions. They're gonna ask you again. They're gonna ask you again. I understand that it's uncomfortable, but it's to go through this process. Once the process is done, and then the VA comes back and they make a decision, then we know we did the process correctly. You know, we just don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. We could try to help you write it, but like I said, it's not about having periods or anything like that. It's just about you writing it how it happened.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you need some assistance, I'll still help you with it, and then you can just my email, Miss Peak put my email, and then you can just contact me there, and then I'll
Okay.
out with you. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um, any other questions on the VA benefit side?
Yes, Reymundo. This is Mark. How you
Yeah,
doing? So, I had a question because I reached out to you the other day. I emailed you, and so basically what we're saying is, so a lot of my claims are getting denied because of lack of medical documentation. The recent one I got, they said we want your medical records. We want to order your medical records, and I'm like, I've submitted what I have for my private physician, but there were no medical records. How is there a way to somehow go around that, or is there? Because I've there's been companies reaching out saying, "Oh, we can help you get the medical nexus letter or something like that." Like they have their own doctors that they can get this, but they charge you. They charge you like a huge percentage of any rating that you get. Any back pay or anything. So, is there a way to? I mean, in your experience, is there a way to somehow
Okay, so
get
what
through
ends up
that
happening?
barrier? Mhm.
So what they do just to take your money. That's what they do.
Mhm.
They'll say like, yeah, we need a nexus. The we already know that some of these conditions are related to the service, right?
Mhm.
The only thing that we're missing is that nothing is documented in your military service. That's why the VA comes back and they deny it because they don't see anything that's documented
Mhm.
in your records in the service. So that's why they'll deny it. So what's the next best thing of getting is if you have buddies that you served with, you ask them like, hey, remember when I fell and I hit my head, or remember when I fell and I hit my knee? Yeah, I remember. And like, you think you could write me a statement of what you saw? And then your buddies will write that because they're writing what they saw,
Yeah.
not what they diagnosed you with, So they're
Okay.
not a medical professional, so they can't diagnose you, but they can write. They're like, oh yeah, I remember when he fell off of the tank and he hit his knee. Then he started limping.
Yeah, and I had one of those written and they still denied it. So that's why it's kind of frustrating because, you know, but that you said so once that's done, is there another like the appeal I mean, at that point then what recourse do we
No,
have?
at that
Appeal.
point, what you do is you just send it to the Board of Appeals, uh,
Okay.
because remember, it starts with the VA. It starts with the Department of Veteran Affairs.
Mhm.
It starts at the low level. So now the VA has implemented what's called a supplemental and a higher level review. And this is at the VA level. So you file your claim, gets denied, then you have the chance to add more evidence to it. Then you do a supplemental. You reopen it based on new and relevant evidence that you have. It gets denied again. Then you do a higher level review. Submit the higher level review, gets denied, then at that point, we have no choice but to send it to the Board of Appeals. And Board of Appeals, it's Washington, D.C., so they'll review everything that's on file. Then they'll come back and they'll remand it, saying, yeah, there's enough evidence here. He should have been sent to a CMP exam. He was not awarded a CMP exam. Therefore, it gets remanded, right? Have to do what the judge tells them to do. So,
Okay, so and it's a process that take years, possible, or a while, right?
yeah, but that's why you just let it go through, because I mean, sometimes we want to get it at the lower level of the VA, but sometimes we just have to argue it. We just have to send it to the Board of Appeals, because they're going to have a different set of eyes than what the VA has. So if I can give somebody else, to look at my whole record and see, then why am I going to have the VA still look at it if they're going to keep on denying me? No.
Right. Okay. Now, what's the difference between a fully developed, I don't know, did you mention that, a fully developed claim? And
a fully developed claim is when you have all three things, which it's in your service treatment records, you have a nexus, and you have a current diagnosis. That's what's considered a fully developed claim.
Okay.
So, like for instance, with Priscilla, she's about to file a claim. If she would have not sent the 0781, then it becomes a standards claim. But now the VA has to kick it out, put it in the standards claims process. Then they have to send a correspondence to Priscilla and let her know, look, we still need the 210781. Please fill it out and send it in. So they're still going to request that letter. So that's why I was telling her, just write it to where you can. If you need to step away, step away and then come back and write it, because at the end of the day, they're still gonna ask for it. Well, we just don't want you to get denied just because the 210781, and it's happened before. We just don't that just that one reason. I know it's difficult, but remember, you're only gonna write about it once, and that's it. So they shouldn't tell you to write about it twice or three times. We can argue that anytime.
Okay.
Standards claim. Then we have, standards claims, it just takes a little bit longer because they have to send in, extra documentation to the veteran. But the way I work is I do most of the claims that I do is a fully developed claim. That's why I tell you to go to the VA, bill your evidence, get seen. If they tell you you don't qualify for get enrolled to the VA healthcare, then let me know. I also work at the VA clinic, and then I can try to get you enrolled, or at least see why they won't let you enroll.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
I have a question. During the whole claim process, and I want to thank you for your assistance after I filed a claim, but during this whole, overwhelming process of trying to search my own medical records and getting my dental records from active duty, with already having claims in the process, do you suggest that we wait for those to get determined before we start shotgunning more claims to the VA?
So with the whole pandemic, that happened, the national personnel records, it's not at the full capacity. I think right now they're like at 30% running. So in this case, the best thing for you is to file a claim. File a claim, submit it. The VA is still going to request your service treatment records and your military personnel file and your DD-214. Once the VA gets it, if you want to get a copy of it, then we could do a 4138 and request as a Privacy Act request. We can request it from the VA, and they should be able to give you a copy of it.
Oh, okay. I will say that I did an MPRC online request and they got back to me within 24 hours. So it was pretty quick for however they're manned right now. But as I'm receiving all this information, just to keep filing, just to have it all kind of in the system as far as the dates is a good strategy, I guess.
Because just so long as you file the claim, I mean that'll be fine because that'll get the process started. So usually when you first initially file your claim, it takes a lot longer. So it can take up from 8 to a year to get a decision on your claim. But the sooner you file, the better it is because the VA will be requesting this information from you. So they're gonna do that's what they call duty to assist. The VA has the duty to assist you in gathering all this information. So that's why we start with the DD 214, give them all the information, where you served, where you got out. Um, then the VA has to request that for you. And let's say your service treatment records are not available, they're supposed to notify you and or let you know. It's like, oh, we try to request the service treatment records. If you have a copy, please send us a copy of it. You know. Now, if you don't have a copy, then they probably don't have a copy. So now we're like, okay, so maybe the service treatment records are lost, or they just can't find it. So, and then a lot of times, if those if the service treatment records are not available, then they should put on that decision letter that once the service treatment records become available, they should reopen your claim again because that's something that will be new and relevant towards your claim.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I see Vanessa just joined us right now. Vanessa, we do have Reymundo who's answering questions regarding the disability claims process. So just so you know, we are recording, but if you have any questions for Ray, go ahead and just unmute yourself and you can ask him.
I actually work with him, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh. Got it. Okay. Well, welcome.
Yeah, I gave her the information for the because she had questions in regards to the voc rehab.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, and then Stephen went first, and
yeah.
But we'll try to. His email is right there, Vanessa. It's Stephen.lamb@va.gov. He's a gentleman that does chapter 31.
Yeah, so he's a chapter 31 counselor. So feel free to reach out to Stephen. He helps us out all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I do have on the chat as well, Reymundo's email. So it's rborjon2@mva.lacounty.gov. I would say you should definitely keep his email handy because just out of experience and seeing Ray support and assist our vets through the claims process, he definitely is, he's willing to help. He's ready to help. There are no fees for his service. He's employed by the county. You never ever should have to pay any fees for anyone who's trying to assist you with the claims process. If you ever encounter that situation and someone is requiring fees to put in claims for you to tell you that it'll go in faster, don't do it. Definitely reach out to the VRC. We'll connect you to Ray or reach out to Ray directly. So definitely, use Ray as Ray's contact as your resource for sure. Something I wanted to add, it sounds like, those of us on here have either initiated the disability claims process, and not so much that you have not, but because this is recorded, I do want those that are tuning in through video and catching this workshop, do know that if you do have a 0% service connected disability, once your claims have been submitted, and if that is what you were expecting at that 0%, do know that 0% can benefit you still, because your children will be allowed to attend any community college in California, any Cal State, and any UC for free with a 0% disability rating. But that starts with the claims process. So that is huge. So definitely, if you have not started the process, start it. The sooner you start it, that's closer to when you were discharged, the better. But it doesn't mean that if you're further away from your discharge date, you're years away from that, it happened, a while back, that you shouldn't put in your claims. You should always put in your claims. But just wanted to give that, advice out to everyone. So does anyone have any other questions for Ray or for us? None? Okay. So I think with that said, I do want to remind everyone that we do have our VRC backpacks here. They're actually really nice. If my camera worked, I would totally show it to you. The VRC backpack, it's a North Face backpack, pretty cool. It has our logo on there, and we fill it up with a few supplies for you as well. So if you have not picked up your backpack and you have attended our workshops, please come by the VRC, pick it up. We are open from Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. until 5:30, and then on Fridays from 9 a.m. until 4. So feel free to stop in and pick up your VRC gear. That way you're off to a great start here at ELAC. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and just wrap it up. Thanks, Ray, for joining us, your presentation, and the questions that you answered. Perfect. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'll help you guys out.
Awesome.
Thank you for everything. I'll definitely be reaching out, Reymundo.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. And thanks everyone else, Vanessa, Priscilla, Robert, our staff, Rosie and Mark. Thanks for joining us today. If there's any way that we can assist you in any other way, reach out to our VRC. We're here. I know you're getting our newsletter. Those are weekly newsletters. Try to get those out to you Monday. Sometimes it happens Tuesday. Sometimes it happens Wednesday. But we do get those out to you weekly. But do make sure that you keep reading them and ask us questions if you need anything. We're here and we have our connections and our resources to send you towards. So thanks so much. Have a great Wednesday, rest of your Wednesday, great rest of your week. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.